begin?
Wild.
On the 9 to noon show, yes, boom, 9 to noon is in the air. Joining us now is John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild. They beat St. Louis last night, have won 4 consecutive, and are tied for the third most points in the NHL. And here comes the head coach. It was a wild one last night at the ex-coach, but you got the money. What did you like about the win? And good morning.
Good morning, PA. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was a little bit of a wild game. We had a great start and then kind of got into a little bit of a little segment in the second period where we weren't playing to the identity that we wanted to play with. But I just really liked that our guys were able to get that back quick. You know, we had a little bit of a lapse. It cost us, but then we put a stop to it. We got back to our game, and then, you know, coming from behind, it's finding different ways to win as we move forward here over the course of the year. You're going to need to play in different situations. You got to learn how to play with a lead. You got to learn how to come from behind. What does that look like, and what does that entail? How do you play in a tight 1-1 or tie game? All these different scenarios. And to the players' credit, they really dug in last night and did what we needed to do to have a come from behind win.
Now, when you jumped up 2-0 after the Merrill goal, 2.5 minutes into it, was there even a little bit of you that's like, wow, I mean, we just might run away and hide from these guys, or just does it not work that way?
No, I think you always know that it's going to be a little bit of a, I think Jones had a shot right after we made it 2-2 and had a possibility to make it 3. Like, sometimes if you can pounce, but if it's too early, there's a lot of game left to be played. You got to make sure that, you're staying with things. I think if it gets to be, on the random game where it's maybe 3 or 4, there's a chance.
Yeah.
The other team will go away, but not much in this league.
Let me ask you this. Well, great start last night with that Bogosian goal. Now, when you get a quickie out of the gate like you did last night, and it's kind of a soft goal, generally speaking, have you seen that rattles goalies in any way?
I think sometimes it depends on the situation. It can possibly if a goaltender maybe is coming in and he's kind of struggling. And he's coming into the game and, maybe he lets one in early that he feels like he should have. Sometimes that can be frustrating. But I think if it's a confident goalie, a goalie that's on top of his game, those things are going to happen. It's no different than a mistake, in front of him on any other player that also allowed that goal to happen. So
right.
Probably depends on the situation and the goaltender.
All right. Now with the second goal, Merrill got his first a bit after Bogosian. You jump up 2-0. Now on that individual goal, John, did it help that Schenn was deciding whether to go after Zuccarello and opted not to, but seemed to enter the fray late?
I think so. Sometimes, we've had a couple of those instances happen to us as well, where a player is trying to decide, do I protect the teammate? Do I play? And, I think it's split-second decisions in the games that, players have to make. And sometimes you make those decisions, it goes in the back of your net, and sometimes you make those decisions, and it's the right one. Fortunately for us, it worked out for us last night. And
Zuki was looking at him, arms outstretched, kind of like, my man, I got tripped. I fell. Nobody was running at your goalie. And like Schenn with discernment was like, okay. Then he tried to run out there, but it was too late, right?
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, it's like, even if you're Schenn, you kind of understand there's a little bit of contact with the goalie, whatever it might be. But then maybe you kind of looking at Zuki and you're like, Zuki's not. Zuki's one of the most competitive players on the ice, but he's such a he doesn't take liberties on players at all. So he's probably like, Zuki obviously was a mistake. And then all of a sudden he's got to go back into play. So right. It probably helped that it was, when he looked at it, that it was Zook, veteran player, great competitor, but, as clean as they come.
And good for Merrill too. Seriously. I mean, in and out of the lineup, and given your injuries back there, he's been needed and seems to be coming through big time.
Yeah, I'm really happy for Johnny, and you know what? He was he came back. He had a great offseason. He came back this training camp, and he was stronger. He had a great mindset. Really determined this year. Even early in the year when he was in and out, he understood, but he still had that drive to play, and he practiced hard. When he get in, he played, and knowing that there's going to be injuries throughout the year, and he's really come through for us. Like when you get injuries and you need players to seize the opportunity and rise to the occasion, and Johnny's done a really good job, and we're going to need him to continue that way down the second half of the year and down the stretch.
John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, 9 to noon.
Little puck talk.
Sustaining without the Kaprizov potency and/or threat. That takes a village, doesn't it?
It does. It takes a real team effort, and I think everybody knows in a room that you're not going to replace Kirill or Kirill's skill set, but I think I said it even last night after the game that if you shop and compare last year to this year when we've had some injuries, we have guys really playing good hockey, good team hockey. They're committed to doing the details of the game. They're very committed in the competitive areas of the game, and you got guys like Johansson and Hartman and Gaudreau and Johnny Merrill, Declan Chisholm, Bogo. These guys are all stepping up in times when you need them, not just in say points, but style of game, attitude, competitiveness, all the things that it takes as a team to win. The guys are really committed to each other, and they're doing a good job.
John, now speaking of injuries, what happened to Brock Faber, and is he doing okay?
Yeah, I don't know exactly where Brock's at. He was getting evaluated after the game, and then usually you come in this morning and meet with the trainers here shortly and get a better feel for where Brock will be.
Are you concerned?
I'm always concerned. When a player leaves the game, one for themselves. But you're always concerned when a player leaves and then obviously doesn't come back and then they need further evaluation. But on the positive side, sometimes, that's what they need. They need a night. They need to get the information back. They need to see a particular doctor and see where it's at. So yeah. I'm hopeful that it's nothing too serious for him, number one, and also for the team.
As are we. Now, from this time last year, or where you were last year to where you are now, with the players, is it fair to say, John, they don't second guess or make some mistakes maybe they made last year, it's leading to such a cohesive bunch?
Yeah, you know what? It's I really give credit to the players, right? Like you can come in. It's your job as a coach to come in with a plan, to communicate that plan, to explain it, to teach it. But, the players have to grab hold of it. And eventually when your players take ownership of the competitive nature of the team, the standards of how we want to practice, willing to sacrifice for the good of the team, whether it's your role, where you play, how you play, all those components, when they take ownership of it, that's when a team can really become cohesive and play consistent, reliable, competitive, smart game. And it's the guys have taken ownership of the team, and that's when you know that you have good players, good character guys, but they're in it to win it.
Fleury was dynamite last night after he entered 15 for 15. What led to the move?
It was a little bit of a lull in our game. St. Louis, we made a couple mistakes. They wound up in the back of the net. You could see it wasn't so much Gus as it was the temperature of the game. And just a little bit switch, wake the team up a little bit. Flower's a competitor. Maybe it ignites the team. I mean, Gus has been a foundation for us. He gets pulled. It's a little bit message that it's not all on Gus here. Like, let's get going. And then Flower comes in and plays unbelievable. And, that's who he is too. I don't know how the heck the guy does it, but he comes in that game and makes some huge saves for us and, seals the win. All
right. 2 more, Coach Hynes. Thanks for the time. The shot blocking all night, you had 19, but the shot blocking late, it was so pivotal. And it was coming from a variety of players. Is that a facet of play where my guys are dialed in?
Yeah, that's when you know the guys are in it for each other, right? They're in it to win. Winning matters. They're willing to sacrifice their own personal safety, basically, for the good of the team to find a way to win a game. And that's ultimately what binds teams together. You need to be tight off the ice, and people talk about dinners and road trips and things like that. But what truly brings a team together is when a game is on the line, when a guy has to sacrifice himself for the good of the team, and multiple guys do that and do it consistently. Guys know they're in it for each other. Like, I'm going to do that because I know the guy next to me is going to do it as well. And that's a true team.
Lastly, I mean, there were some luminaries last night. Boldy with the big goal, and we talked about Bogosian. Bogosian had some scrappy plays late that really helped you. But Jonas Brodin, he gave you 33 minutes. I mean, he gave you a quality 33 minutes last night. How tired was he after the game?
I don't know about Bros, man. He's got an engine that doesn't stop. But I know obviously after a game like that, the way that he played and the commitment level that he played with, he's certainly tired and is going to need a recovery day here today. But he's another one of these guys on the team. He's got a great engine, keeps himself in great shape, has the mental toughness and the physical ability to play big minutes and play the game the right way in those big minutes. And that's the one thing I'd say about our guys that play big minutes. They don't coast in the game. They play the game the right way. They play both sides of the puck. That's not easy to do, and that's why it's such a vital part of the team.
Thanks for the chat, and tear it up against the Avs tomorrow night. All right, have a good day.
All right, PA. See you, man. Thanks.
See you, bud. That's John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, a terrific team. Our Minnesota Vikings are required to be a terrific team Monday night in the Southland. And one way to beat those Rams is to whoop 'em Van Ginkel style.
The Gink is on fire! It's Van Ginkel style. Van Ginkel style. Oh, he threw it to Van Ginkel. Touchdown! That's the 4th touchdown in Andrew Van Ginkel's career. And he read Daniel Jones like a book. They blitz Roger, and they pay for it. Picked off by Van Ginkel. Near side to the 50. On the sideline, 40. And is loose. Touchdown! 43, though, put it on a show. They didn't know. Now they know. Ruining their flow. A sack or bad throw. Every play. Every day. Driving quarterbacks absolutely insane. It's Van Ginkel style. Van Ginkel style. Here's Van Ginkel. Yes. It's Van Ginkel style. Yes. Andrew Van Ginkel. Van Ginkel style. Andrew Van Ginkel. It's Van Ginkel style. Andrew Van Ginkel. It's Van Ginkel style. Andrew Van Ginkel. It's Van Ginkel style.
Hey, whoop 'em Van Ginkel style. Nice job, bud. That's Fija, by the way. Fairness, Fija, Fairness and friend Jeremiah Forrester Act. He gave me that idea, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month ago, and I slid it to the con. The con slid it to the parody, and now we're all happy together. Why? Because we're about ready to whoop somebody Van Ginkel style. Hey! Whoop 'em Van Ginkel style. That was great. Good job.
Thank you.
TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes Mike Florio at about 9:40. Also, Sam Farmer. He writes for the LA Times, one of the great football writers in the history of National Football League writing. That's about 11 o'clock. And around the corner, HOF Radio. Fran, the man on the fan, knows a little something about postseason football. Fran Tarkenton joins 9 to noon around the corner. Eric Nordquist produces, and I'm Paul Allen. We are here for one reason and one reason only. To whoop 'em Van Ginkel style. Woo! Let's do it now. It's 9 to noon at KFAN. Ooh! Fran the man on the fan, HOF Radio right here, friends. Fran Tarkenton is the greatest quarterback in the history of Minnesota Vikings football, and he joins us now. How in the heck have you been, HOF?
I have been great. I'm in my office. I'm going to turn 85 years old February 3rd.
Oh, geez.
I work every day. I love doing the work I do, and we have a lot of companies. We're a technology company. We're a finance company. We do, and it's just the best time I've ever been in business all my life. There's so much opportunity now, and it's just with AI and all the technology and all the stuff. It's a fun place to be.
We're hoping postseason business is good for your Minnesota Vikings. But first, Fran being a Georgia native, how much does it pain you the Atlanta Falcons came up short of making the playoffs?
Oh, I don't like the Falcons. I don't like.
Happened.
My weekends are I want the Vikings to win, I want the Bulldogs to win, and I want the Falcons to get beat.
Yeah.
And even with my buddy Kirk Cousins down here, who they just massacred him, and he came down here, and now they drafted the kid in the first round, the 8th pick, and they were struggling along, and Kurt, they gave him a lot of money, but he's gone.
What, just quickly here, Michael Penix Jr., the young man has a very nice arm. What do you think of him in the brief time you saw him?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. In my era, in this era, any quarterback that gets out of college to come to pro has an arm. Mm-hmm. They can throw. If they couldn't throw, they wouldn't get drafted, and they would. Now that doesn't mean that they're great quarterbacks, but they have the physical ability to throw, and he does. But no different than anybody else. It's too early. He won one game and lost two when he was here. That division they're in is just awful. There's no talent in it, and so we'll see whether he can play or not. Who knows? Our guy took him 5 years to just get in the right situation, the right deal. But when he comes up there and he gets with the Vikings and a good organization and a great young coach, he's played as good a quarterback as anybody in the league.
Okay, well, with our guy being Sam Darnold, HOF. Two-parter here for the Hall of Famer. What did you think of Sam Darnold's season? And, Fran, what in the heck happened to him at Detroit?
Well, I didn't see the game, but I got I read the reports on it, and obviously he didn't play as well. He played great all year. But, I don't care who you are. You're going to have a bad day sometimes.
Yeah.
The quarterback's a tough position. It's the toughest position in all sports, but what he has done this year is phenomenal, but he's in the right system. Kevin is just a great, great coach, great offensive coach. And if you're not in a system with someone like Kevin who knows how to put the thing together, then you don't have a chance to be good.
All right.
And Sam didn't have that in the other places he played, except he played 1 year out in San Francisco, and that coach knows how to coach too.
Right.
But they had a quarterback, and so I just think his year was great. Detroit is a really good team. They're a really good defensive team, and they're on a roll. And we got disjointed, but that happens. Your quarterback's not going to have 16 great games during the season, or this year 17.
Yep.
Just not going to happen. And so that was his one bad one. I think you he'll come back and play against LA in the finals or in playoffs, and I think he'll do. I think he's a really good player.
Okay, well, with Darnold, and I'm with you on that, and I fully expect a bounce back Monday night. It can be argued, HOF, that he missed 5 touchdowns during the Lions game. All right, now
I think he did play well.
Now, when one watches back games with the offense, and they all see the quarterback miss like 5 touchdowns and various other big throws at Detroit. Like, how well does that go over? How do you work through that?
Well, it's like, you're golfers, right? If they win three tournaments a year, they're great. You just have days at that position where you're not going to play great. Mm-hmm. And when you're playing against a great defensive team, which Detroit is, they got a lot of momentum. They got a really good, well-coached team, and they've been together a few years now, and it didn't work out. But I'm like you. I think we'll come back and play great against LA, and they're well-coached team. The coach there had Kevin out there, and the coach there is from Atlanta here. He comes from a football family, and he's really a really good coach. And they got a Georgia Bulldog playing quarterback, Matt Stafford, and he can play.
Yeah,
he's really a good player. He's a good player in college, but he's had bad days too. Mm-hmm. So hopefully our guy the system will be right, and Kevin will get him straightened out, and I expect him to go out and have a good day and night for us. When
I asked you that last question, I thought or was hoping you were going to say, Paul, I've never missed 5 touchdowns in a game.
I always love that one.
We didn't get that one from HOF. Francis, you mentioned Stafford, first overall pick in the 2009 draft, Super Bowl winner, still a tough customer. What are some things you like about him?
Well, everybody wants to talk about players' arms. He's got an exceptional arm. He's a great passer. He was at Georgia. And he's in a great system. If you're a quarterback, if you don't have the right system and in a great system, you're not going to play well. And so, back in the days when I played, I was very involved in putting the offense together and the passing game together. And whenever my backups, whether it be Bob Berry or General Bob Lee, they played great because our system was great.
Right.
We put in a system that could function. And that's what Kevin does, and that's what the coach out in L.A. does. And he's Stafford's better, but the guy that didn't play well in L.A., he's over at Detroit now, and they've got a really great offensive coordinator too. And you're seeing that quarterback in Detroit play in the last 3 or 4 years much better than he played at L.A.
Yeah, with Sean McVay, you mentioned his football pedigree.
Yeah.
His grandfather, John, God rest his soul, was football immortality, 5-time Super Bowl winner, executive of the year with the Niners. He was a coach of the New York Giants, mid-'70s. You just missed him, right, when you played for the Giants?
Yeah, I guess I did. And the good thing out there, Bill Walsh was he was a great offensive coach, just phenomenal. And he came out of the Cleveland Browns with the greatest coach of the 50s and the 40s was the Brown guy that they named Cleveland Browns after him, I guess.
Right.
But he was and Walsh came out of that tree, and he was great in his time. And luckily for us there, I mean, Kevin has got a reputation around the league, and I talk to people all around the league. Everybody would like to have Kevin be their coach. He is really, really good.
Well, you've gotten to know him over the years. So what are some facets with Kevin O'Connell and this generation of man, this generation of player? What are some things you like?
Yeah. Well, what I like about you've got to make the system easy. It's a hard position, the hardest position in all of sport, and you got to simplify that thing so that talented people can play. And if you don't have the right system and the right coach to put in the right system, I don't care who your quarterback is, they're not going to play well. They're just not. and there are not that many really great offensive coaches of any era. And Kevin's one of them for this era, no question about it. I mean, he's in the top 3 or 4 offensive coaches in all of football today.
It's Fran Tarkenton. He's Fran, the man on the fan.
HOF.
HOF played in 11 playoff games and 3 Super Bowls. The pressure of these games, Fran, as you know, it's not for everybody. How does O'Connell make sure the hyperventilating by his players is at a minimum?
Well, it's preparation. It's just preparation. And great coaches know how to prepare. And Kevin will have our team ready to go. And they've got a great coach at L.A. Who Kevin coached under out there. So, I mean, you get to the playoffs, I mean, it's all the teams in there are good. All the teams in there can win. And so it's going to be fun to watch because you're going to have the best teams with the best coaches that are out there going against one another, and you know, and they'll all be prepared, and we'll see what happens.
You beat the Rams twice in the playoffs. Do they even care about this team in Southern California?
That's a good question. I don't know. You know, in the early days, you know, we were in the same division. Well, in my first, 6 years with the Vikings, with the Rams.
Yeah.
Now we're in the division with the Rams and the 49ers. And that was before we became in the black and blue division with Green Bay and Detroit and Chicago. But it's the greatest game in the world. It's the greatest game in the world. The ratings are there because it's so exciting to watch pro football, NFL football, college football, because it's fast, it's furious, it's physicality, and all the players are great. And then they're not really any bad coaches, but you got some coaches who are better than others, and you got some players that are a little better. But it's the people that are in the playoff. Man, I mean, it's really the elite of elite, and you hope that you put everything together for that particular game, and your game plan works like you want it to work, and sometimes it doesn't.
Fran, ever face close to the style of defense Brian Flores unfurls, and if so, how did you handle it?
Well, I really love him. He's done a great job. I know it was tough this last weekend, but he blitzes a lot, and I think that's important. If you just sit back and have a 3-man rush or a 4-man rush, and you don't put pressure on the quarterback, you're not going to win. And he puts pressure on the quarterback. He's the most aggressive defensive play caller that I think there is, and I think it's the right way to be. I loved the 2-minute drill that we had, because they go into a prevent defense. They played a 3-man line, 2-man line. Well, I could go back and run across the field 2 or 3 times till somebody got tired and somebody got open. And so, and I think he brings that to the game, and I think he's a tremendous defensive coach. But everything didn't work like we'd like it to work in Detroit.
Right.
But it did for a long time, but you got to play great defense, you got to play great offense. You got to go both ways, and you're playing against the best players, the best coaches in the world. That's the greatness of the playoffs. There are no sure wins or no sure losses in the playoffs. These teams earn their right to get there, and they can play.
Amen. Now, or as the great Bob Hagan would say, time for 2 more. Seeing the game through a quarterback's eyes. What are some of the best ways to get around Flores' tricks? Like what are some concerns maybe into Monday night with the way McVay coaches and with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua? I mean, he has some nice players.
He's got some really good players, and they'll be prepared. And so Flores will keep him off balance some. He won't be predictable. He may not blitz as much, but then again, he may blitz more.
Yeah.
But he will look at their film and see what they do, and it'll be a chess. And their head coach is a great offensive coordinator too. So it's going to be a great matchup. It really is between the strategies of both teams. And both teams have really good quarterbacks, and both teams have really good receivers, and both teams can run the ball. It's going to be. It's a toss-up game. It's a toss-up game.
Hey, Fran, HOF, last one here. And outside of the Lions game, I know you've watched a lot of it. Do you think specifically in a situation like Monday night, where there truly is a no tomorrow with the playoffs, do you need to make sure to get the ball to Jefferson more and starting right now? And I'm not necessarily talking about, him always being open. It's like if Sam's starting to get in trouble, and you have Jefferson one-on-one, but it's tight coverage by the sideline, give him chances to make 50-50 plays. Yeah. Do you need more of that?
Well, Jefferson is as good a receiver as there is in the league. And so obviously they'll try to take him. Every team tries to take him away, give him different looks and different things. I think that he's going to have to, get the ball to the other guys and get a little pressure off of Jefferson so he can get to him. But they're going to. I'd be shocked if they didn't have two people on Jefferson about every play time he walks down the field.
Right.
But there are times when you can maneuver that. I mean, Kevin will find a way to get the ball to Jefferson, and that'll be. And he will, and Jefferson will be a major part of the game.
Hey, Fran, on behalf of this radio show and yours truly, an early and very happy 59th birthday coming up for you around the corner. And God bless you, my friend. Thanks for the chat, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot. See you, bud.
Yep,
Bye.
See you, bud. That's Fran, the man on the fan, the greatest quarterback in the history of Minnesota Vikings football.
HOF.
Florio, PFT. Yeah, we. Next.
9 to noon. KFT.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, and NBC's Football Night in America joins us now, as he's wont to do on Wednesdays, and he rocks for that. Let's peek forward for a second before we go back to Sunday. And what I'm getting at here, Mike, are those fires in Southern California. I wonder if in any way it will impact Monday night's game. Pacific Palisades, the epicenter of this fire and these fires. It's just like 15 miles away from SoFi. What do you think?
I hadn't thought about it. I know one of my writers is out there, Miles Simmons. He's not far away from the fire. He sent me a video yesterday where you just zoom in a little bit, and it's this bright orange flame. And I told him I'd already be halfway to New Mexico right now, man. Get out of there. But he's sticking around for now, and it is scary. I hadn't done the dot connecting, because usually what you worry about is air quality, and it's not a dome, so that's part of it too. But right. If there's a public safety issue, ingress, egress, movement of the flames, I don't know what they would do. I don't know where the game would be played. I'm sure Jerry Jones would offer to make AT&T Stadium available in Dallas, but we could potentially, based on how this thing goes over the next few days, see that game moved. I wouldn't rule it out, and stranger things have happened. The question really becomes, where would it go? Arizona, Dallas, even San Francisco potentially, but man, that changes everything if you strip away the Rams' home field advantage and put that game on a neutral site. But that could happen. I had not thought of it. That could happen.
Thanks for sharing that. And it was great seeing you on the field before the finale. I'm guessing you hated the game.
Well, I don't know. It was great to be there. The folks at Ford Field were very hospitable. NBC did a good job on short notice of recreating our workspace on Sundays. We go on the road for the first game of the regular season on a Thursday night. We'll go to a divisional round game based upon whether or not we have enough of a pregame show to make it worth our while. When it locked in Vikings at Lions for the Week 18 regular season finale, and they decided we're going to go to the game, my first thought was, how are we going to do our work? How are we going to watch the games? Because our usual setup isn't conducive to watching all the games. They found us a conference room inside Ford Field, one of the businesses that's actually headquartered in the building. We had great facility, great spread, a lot of room. You know, a lot of times you get cramped. It was great. It was great. So it was a great day, and it was fun to be on the field, doing our work from the field, doing the show from the field, running into people that I've known, meeting new people that you introduced me to, and that part of it was awesome. But yeah, the game sucked. But the game, you know, Sims and I were talking earlier today about the Ravens and the Steelers on Saturday night. When the Ravens beat them last month on a Saturday, 34-17, that final score was misleading, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Ravens to duplicate that. The same thing happens if there's a Vikings-Lions rematch at Ford Field divisional round or championship round, because 31-9 was not the feel of that game. That game was there to be had for the Vikings. Opportunities lost. Sam had the yips, and Van Ginkel dropped, not that it would have been an easy catch, but he dropped an opportunity to pull the game to within 17-16, or if they'd gone for 2, 17-17 in the second half. So that was not a 31-9 game. The dam finally broke and the Vikings were done. That wouldn't have happened if the game had stayed close and if some of those opportunities had been capitalized on.
So now with Darnold, you know, for those perhaps waiting for the Cinderella quarterback to play the pumpkin card, it happened Sunday night. Now, what's your level of trust he dramatically improves Monday night?
Well, I don't know, because we haven't seen this yet. We've seen flashes of it against Jacksonville. He had a rough game, and it's not like he followed it up by playing lights out against Tennessee. As I've told you before, it was the second half of the Cardinals game where something kicked in, and they wrote it out, and now it fizzled. Was the stage too big? Were the lights too bright? And they won't get much dimmer on the Monday night game of Wild Card Weekend. So also, you introduce an element that he's never experienced in his entire playing career, single elimination football. How will you change? And when you consider the stakes on Sunday night, it's not a good sign for Monday night. The suggestion is that when the lights get brighter, Sam doesn't rise to the occasion. That's all we can base it on from the one time that he was playing for playoff-type stakes. And it wasn't a true playoff game because the losers still continued, but the winner gets the inside track to the Super Bowl. And with that brass ring there, Sam fell off the horse. And there's no other way to put it. You know, look at how many throws were sailed, how many opportunities were missed, all those early trips to the red zone squandered because he was just putting too much air on the ball.
Right.
And you get spoiled by a guy throwing lasers, and you know that beautiful throw against the Seahawks where he stepped up aggressively into the pocket and fired the 39-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson, and then all of a sudden he's just lost it. So was it one night? Was it one moment? Can it be fixed? Can it be changed? Was it a noise issue? We'll find out. But obviously, the whole season, 14-3, is riding on whether or not he can turn it around on Monday night, and we'll see.
Some Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, NBC's Football Night in America, author of several books, including the Of Mines, Father and Son of Mine. And, with that game at Ford Field, some wives and girlfriends of Vikings players are claiming they were significantly harassed and even touched by Lions fans at Ford Field. In fact, one wife shared with me yesterday, those guys made Eagles and Bills fans look like saints. The Lions have been good for like 5 minutes. Maybe the fans are getting too brash, callous, vulgar, and cocky. What do you think?
Well, one thing I'll say is this, and I know you're an FCC-regulated station, so I won't use the word that I'm thinking. But my general advice to fans is don't talk crap until your fingerprints are on the trophy. And there are far too many fans that think winning a regular season game means something when it ultimately doesn't. And it just sets you up for a bigger disappointment. So I can understand why Lions fans are feeling their oats here. That still doesn't excuse bad behavior. And, the number one ingredient that fuels that kind of conduct is alcohol. And one thing that I will never forget, When we showed up at Ford Field Monday morning for PFT Live, and I knew we were doing it in the building, I had no idea we were doing it down on the field in the area where NBC did the pregame show on Sunday night. But as soon as we walked in, it smelled like walking into a frat house at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. I mean, it was palpable reeking of beer, and it lasted all the way down to the field. I'd never experienced that before. When you walk into a football stadium, a cavernous building, and I don't know, maybe you have at U.S. Bank, but you walk into a cavernous building like that and get smacked in the face with the smell of beer. And that would explain why, you may have had some people acting like jerks.
Now, with the Lions, does Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson truly want to be a head coach? And it's probably a stupid question, but there's always an air of uncertainty with him in that next step.
Well, I did a lot of work over the weekend on trying to figure out where the vacancies were going to be and what the hot candidates were inclined to do. And the key with Ben Johnson is alignment with the front office. He needs to feel that if and when he jumps to a team as a head coach, he is fully in sync with whoever is running the team. And look at how many dysfunctional franchises out there do not have alignment with the GM and the coach, where if things go sideways, one or the other gets fired. That's not a way to run a proper and successful NFL operation. You have to have equal accountability, whereas you both get fired or you both stick around. And you need that kind of alignment. You need that kind of teamwork. You need to feel that it's a true collaboration. You don't want to hear people talking about who has the power to break the tie. It shouldn't be that. We share a brain. We come to the same conclusions. We don't get mad. We don't argue. We're all operating in the best interest of the team, and that's what he's looking for. That's why I think Jacksonville, I'm surprised he accepted the request to interview with the Jaguars, unless they went ahead and made it, despite the fact that he might not be interested, because unless they clear out the front office, I don't see him going there. And I think at the end of the day, he's learned from watching the mistakes of others. When the window opens, if you jump through it prematurely or land in the wrong spot, next thing you know, 2-3 years later, you're fired and you never get another opportunity. So I think that he's going to be very selective. I know he's going to be very selective. He might not take every interview that's offered to him. And it's going to be hard for him to give up being the mad scientist who designs the plays and has relative anonymity. He's not the one who's front and center. He's not the one who's getting doxxed and having people show up at his house like Dan Campbell. And I think he prefers making, $4 or $5 million as the coordinator versus all the other crap that goes along with having the top job in the building.
Of all these openings, which to you seems most attractive?
The Bears, because of Caleb Williams. If you're a believer in Caleb Williams, you have to be a believer in Caleb Williams. And the concern when you're looking for a coach and you have a quarterback that you want to be your franchise guy, you don't want to accidentally hire a coach who's lying to you about being all in with Caleb Williams and is waiting to put his own quarterback in there. So if you're a believer in Caleb Williams, and most guys are, then I think that's a place where you want to go. And what the Bears are doing, they're turning over every stone. They're looking for everyone possible. And they are, not that they're committed to doing this, not that they're going to ignore someone else for the sake of just doing something outside the box. They want to find the next Mike Tomlin before he was Mike Tomlin, or the next Sean McVay before he was Sean McVay. Where's that guy that we're not really thinking about as a top of the A-list candidate who can become a star? That's what they're trying to find. And we were talking about this on PFT Live today. When you look at all the names on there, anybody out there who's ever been involved in recruiting for a business, and when I was practicing law, and this was like, I can't remember how long ago it was, probably almost 30 years ago, I'd go on, these day-long visits to law schools, and you spend all day interviewing people. It is exhausting, physically, mentally, emotionally, to be on, to be talking, to get to know these people, to have conversations all day long, nonstop, over and over and over again. And you look at all these interviews the Bears are doing, man, Kevin Warren and company are going to be worn out when this is done.
Why did the Patriots give Gerard Mayo just a single season?
Well, there were times during the year that it felt like he was trying to talk his way out of a job. And to be a good head coach, you've got to act the part, look the part, talk the part. Communication is one of the critical aspects of the job. You're the front-facing, in most organizations, except like the Cowboys, you're the primary voice and face of the organization. And when you're using those press conferences and you're saying things that just don't make sense, I remember thinking back middle of October, this guy's trying to talk his way out of a job after 1 year. And it was over the last month that it fell apart. And I don't think that the timing is coincidental to the availability of Mike Vrabel. They fire him, boom, by halftime of the late afternoon games on Sunday.
Right.
They've complied with the Rooney Rule by interviewing Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton yesterday. And look, does it mesh with the spirit of the rule? No. Does it comply with the letter of the rule? Yes. Are they the first ones to do it this way? Hell no. But they are moving quickly, and I feel like they're going to try to make a beeline to Mike Vrabel and make him the next coach of the team.
You just a couple more here, Mike Florio, PFT, do you give the Packers much of a chance at Philly?
Yes.
Me too.
I mean, they almost beat them in Brazil.
Right.
The issue is quarterback health, both teams. Jalen Hurts still in the concussion protocol, more than 2 games after suffering a brain injury. And Jordan Love hit his funny bone on Sunday against the Bears. Will he be okay? Will Malik Willis be okay to back him up? And they lost Christian Watts. You know, it's a shame for the Packers, a team with a playoff spot clinched who went out and played to try to avoid the Eagles in the wild card round. They ultimately suffered injuries and lost to the Bears, and they have to go to Philly instead of going to Tampa Bay.
What overall, what do you think of Nick Sirianni as a head coach?
I think he gives off a vibe of a fan that they pulled out of the stands and said, "You've won a contest to be the coach of the team for a day," in all candor.
Right.
Does that mean? Does that mean spirited?
I understand.
Sims and I were talking about it today. We were talking about which Super Bowl teams, potential Super Bowl teams, we have the most confidence in, and he had the Eagles like second on his list because they're the most talented team in the NFL. And I said, yeah, but you know what? You've got an AP vote for the awards that are handed out at the end of the year. Top 5. Was Sirianni on your list of top 5? And he said no. So you've got the best talent in the league, but something's missing at the coaching staff, and
right.
and it's Sirianni. Look what happened last year when they fell apart, and it just feels like there's something off there. And if they would somehow lose to the Packers on Sunday, you just wonder, just like last year, they made it to the playoffs and they lost badly in the wild card round. You just wonder what happens next.
All righty, last one here for PFT.
Football feast.
Where did and I know Jay Glazer started it on TV, but like the bogus O'Connell could be traded stuff from over the weekend. Did you just find it stupid?
No. I think that the Wilfs made a gamble by not extending Kevin O'Connell's contract after 2 years, and now that he's 1 year away from free agency. If he would decide, and he doesn't seem to be of this character or of this ilk, if he would decide, I'm going to become a free agent, I'm going to leave after next year, I'm going to go wherever I want to go, so you should just trade me and get value now, that's how it could happen. And I wouldn't downplay the possibility of frustration that he had to go out and prove himself again this year after he proved himself in his first year before he could get his contract. But he's got leverage now, and I was talking to somebody about this on Sunday. When the owners have the leverage, they take full advantage of it, and we applaud them. When the other side has leverage and the owners are painted into a corner, they lose their minds. Oh, you're being unreasonable. Why are you being a jerk? Why do you want so much money? Do you not want to be here? So there's a PR element to it. There's a business strategy to it. And the bottom line is, as soon as this season's over, they need to sit down and get this worked out. It's in no one's interest to go into 2025 with Kevin O'Connell in the last year of his contract.
Very fairly stated. All right, enjoy the game Monday. We'll talk next week.
See you, Paul.
That's Mike Florio, PFT. Yeah,
It's Paul Allen, 9 to noon on FM 100.3 The